Shalom, welcome back. We are continuing to work through our ancient triennial Torah portion of Ha'azinu. So today we will be picking up with Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 27. Adonai Adonenu ma'adir shimcha ken yiratzon ki lekachnu yihyeh tov ba'einecha balayla hazot. All right, let's get started. So here we are, verse 27. Let's go. Lulei, kaas, oyeiv, agur, pen yinakeru zareimo, pen yomru, yadeinu, ramah, velo Adonai paal kol zot. All right, lulei, lamed, shurik, lamed, yod, if you're just listening from home, is if only that. Like, if only that, or it would have been enough if that. Understood by Gunkel here in combination with what's coming up, the agur later on. So, if only not, and then we're going to have the agur later. So, lulei, if not, or if only, kaas, kaas. So, kaas is a vexation, like something troubling. Oyeiv. So that is in construct, so a vexation or a problem, like an irritation of oyeiv, aleph, vav, yod, vet, of an enemy. Agur. So lulei kaas oyev agur. If only not the vexation of an enemy I had feared, even though you'll notice this is a imperfect, but we're translating it kind of as a perfect. Pen, lest, or so that not, nakeru. So the verbal root here is nun, kaf, resh. In Jewish Aramaic, it means to treat as strange. Now the PL here is to make a false presentation, to deface, or to inspect something carefully, right? So that not had made a false demonstration or defaced, they had not done this. Zareimo. Zareimo. So what is tsar? Tzariresh. Tsar is an adversary. And the mo, this is a very old pronominal suffix. It can mean different things. In general, it's third person. Often it's plural. Sometimes it's singular, right? So don't be deceived on that. In poetry, sometimes it's just like a variable for any kind of suffix. So you'll see it sometimes just a mo will be placed there, and it could be anyone. So it can be very flexible depending on how the poetry is working. Now, in this case, we're talking about them, i.e., our so zareimo, their tsars, their adversaries. Pen yomeru, so that not or lest yomeru from the verb amar, aleph mem resh. They will say, yadeinu, the yadayim of nu, our hands, ramah, are high, meaning we did it ourselves, right? So talking about the enemies, Hashem doesn't like that our enemies are going to think it's because of their own might, or even their own power, or their gods. Velo, and not Hashem. Yod-He, Waw-He. Paal, Pei, Ayin Lamed. This is a synonym to Asa, has done, Kol Zot, all of this. Okay, let's read it again. This time try to translate before I do. Lulei, if only, or so that not, or if only not. Kaas, kaas, vexation of oyeiv, of enemy. Agur, I had feared. Pen, lest, or so that not. Nakeru, the verbal root for those listening, nun kaf resh, and this is a PL. If you're looking at the screen, I've marked the PL for you so that you can see it. We have a strong dagesh in the root letter, not nun, but in kaf, and then there's resh. So the middle root letter is doubled. That's the indication, usually, of the PL binyan, or the intensive binyan. So that they might not make a false presentation. Who would not? Subject is zareimo, the tsarim of Mo. That's the adversaries of them, meaning Israel's adversaries. Pen, pei nun. Really, if you want it in one word, you got to go with an older English expression, lest, right? So that not, or lest, yomru, they will say, yadeinu, the hands of nu, of us, are ramah, are high, meaning we did it with our own hands. Although you can see sometimes people going with a hand held up high, just meaning they're having some confidence. Velo, and not Yod He Waw He, not Hashem, not the name. Paal, Pei Ayin Lamed, has done Kol Zot, all of Zot, this. And you'll notice yesterday we had a rarer word, Zot, Zayin Aleph Tav, meaning indignation. So this is not really what's being used here. This is the more common Zot, all of this. And likely it's intentional. When a Hebrew poet uses the same word, again, very often he's using a homograph or he's teasing out a different meaning of the same word, right? So there is an intention behind that. It's not just like sloppy poetry. This is not Quran here. This is actual divinely inspired poetry. All right, I'll just read it one time. Lulei kaas, oyeiv agur pen yenakeru zareimo. Pen yomru yadeinu ramah velo Hashem paal kol zot. All right, going to keep it going. And in the premiere, make sure to put your questions over there in the chat. I will be checking in on them. And if you're missing it and you want to chime in later, feel free to leave a comment down below. Verse 28. Ki goy ovad eitzot heimah ve'ein bahem tevunah. And just a reminder, we're foregoing our usual lessons this week. Usually, right now, Mondays is for Judges, Tuesday is for Exodus, Wednesday is for First Kings, and Thursday is for Koheleth, Ecclesiastes. But because this poem is so beautiful and so long, we weren't able to finish it on Shabbat. And I took a poll, and those of you who voted in the poll over in Telegram on Hebrew Literacy voted to finish this instead. So that's why we're doing it. We're finishing the Song of Moses instead. All right. Ki, kaf yod, for, F-O-R, for, because, goy, ovad. Goy, gimel, vav yod. This does not usually mean Gentile. Usually it just means nation, right? Nation. Over time, it develops into kind of the meaning of, in Yiddish, it means Gentile, but over time, it develops to mean like a non-Jew. In late biblical Hebrew, you see it more often used that way. So, goy, ovad, and this is actually a participle from the verb aleph, beit, dalet. You don't have to know what a participle is. This is just for those who care about that, okay? Not everyone needs to know all the grammatical terms to understand what's going on. So don't let it overwhelm you when I talk grammar. All grammar is noticing patterns. And some people, it helps them to know the terms and all that stuff very well. Others, they just want the bare minimal. That's fine. We're reading with understanding. Our ancestors didn't go through and say, oh, okay, this is PL participle, etc., all right? So, ovad, it's from avad, which is to perish. To perish. There's a halakhic principle mentioned in the Talmud, an avedah, which is a lost item. If you find an avedah, you're supposed to try to return it to the owner without expending a crazy amount of energy. All right, so avad, here we have it functioning as an adjective. So goy ovad, a perishing nation. Eitzot, ayin sadi vav tav. This is from eitzah. Don't confuse it as being from wood or something. It's eitzah, which is counsel or advice. So a nation's perishing advice, or literally a perishing nation, advices or counsels are heimah, are they? Heimah refers to the enemy nations. You can find this in the Midrash in Sifrei. Rabbi Nehemiah has this opinion, and also many of the classical commentators, including Rashi, Ibn Ezra, and others. I could probably just start randomly naming names and hit some. They mostly think that the heimah here, the they, is talking about the other nations, the enemy nations, which confirms what we saw. Yeah, which confirms what we're going to see coming up. So let's leave it like that. Ve'ain bahem, and there is not among them, tevuna, understanding. There's no understanding among them. Okay? One more time, you try to translate before I do. This is Deuteronomy 32, verse 28. Ki goy ovad eitzot heimah. For a perishing nation, their counsels are. Literally, the counsels are they. Their counsels are they. Yes. Right? You always got to think like Yoda. Ve'ain. That's Aleph Yod Nun. And there are not bahem, among them, tevuna, understanding. From the word being, to understand. All right, verse 29. Chakhmu, yaskilu zot, yavinu le'acharitam. All right. Now you might see a little note here, A. That's saying that there's, in the critical text, and we are looking at the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia, which is a critical Hebrew text, which means they have, at the bottom, they summarize variant manuscripts or the ancient versions when they differ. So it says lu, but the Samaritans in their Torah, they have lo, they have an aleph there, like not. And it's interesting. Usually I don't care too much about the Samaritan Torah, but it's interesting when it's confirmed by something else. So the Jewish Greek also has not there. So it also understands this as lo, the way that it was translated by the rabbis into Jewish Greek, right? So, and before you scoff at the Greek, I know there's a lot of people from various backgrounds. I won't name the sects or denominations. They'll scoff at Greek. Oh, that's Greek logic, Greek reasoning. Okay. Relax there with the Greek stuff for a second. Jewish Greek, it's our Greek, yeah. And if you're Orthodox Jewish or other sects that care what Chazal have to say, the sages actually say that when you read the Torah every week, you're supposed to read it in Hebrew, and you're also supposed to read it in a translation of a language you understand. And the sages traditionally call out Jewish Aramaic and, wait for it, Greek as the translations that are good translations, like good to read it in. So, so don't be so quick to poo-poo on the Greek. I think the poo-pooing of the Greek is something that was kind of a reaction. It was a reaction to the existence of Christianity, because you had these Christian monks who they knew the Greek really well, and then they would have debates with Jews in the diaspora over the Septuagint, and they'd make these points, like, for example, in Isaiah 53, in that 52-53, it says Parthenos in the Jewish Greek, which means virgin, right? So this, there was a reaction away from that, away from Greek, kind of delegitimizing the Greek almost. But the sages, Chazal, they liked the Greek, and they said it was good. It's good, and it was worthy of contemplation, right? And this isn't just me. I learned this at university from a Jewish-Christian relations class I took. The rabbi from the Hillel Center asked me to please audit the class at least. So because they were having issues getting enough students in the class to have the class. So, okay, I'll audit, because I didn't want to be committed to have to do all the homework while I got my engineering work to do. So I audited, and it was interesting. It's interesting seeing and how he is an Orthodox observant Jew, presented how Judaism reacted to Christianity. Christianity also reacted to Judaism. So the two faith systems today have variances in their faith that would not have existed if the other religion hadn't existed. They're reacting to one another, right? So closing certain doors, closing certain things. And by closing off Greek, it really was a way to close the door to Christian missionaries and stuff like that. So, but the Greek, Jewish scholars today reference the Greek. It is a very useful tool. And so this might be low. It might be low. Now, if it is lu, when followed by a perfect form of the verb, like it's very finite, means something like would that, like If only like that. Would that. Otherwise, it means something like, please hear me out, or like, please. So this could either mean, would that chakhmu, that they were wise, right? If only they had been wise, like that. That's what the Masorah has, lu. But the Samaritan Torah and the Jewish Greek both translate this as if, well, they write lo, it's Hebrew in the Samaritan Torah, but it's written with Paleo Hebrew characters. And the Jewish Greek understands it as not. All right, let's continue. Chacham, chet kaf mem, if you're just listening, is to be wise. Chakhmu is they were wise or behaved wisely. And that's interesting. We have a perfect, and now it's followed by an imperfect. Yaskilu. Now, the root of this is sakal, sin, kaf, lamed, which usually has the idea of to behave intelligently or something like this. This is a hifil. You can tell because there's a yod jammed in before the third root letter. Also, there's an ah sound in front of the ya, which happens for hifil. Now, there's 4 different meanings for this. The hifil, hiskil. One, which is the one we have here, probably, to understand or to comprehend. Next, to have insight or cleverness. Next, to make wise or insightful. And next, to achieve success. Right? Probably it's to understand or to comprehend here, but with the presence of chakhmu, it certainly could mean to make wise or to be insightful. So yaskilu, they would have understood. So lu chachemu, if only they had been wise, yaskilu, they would have understood zot. Zayin aleph tav, they would have understood this. Yavinu, they would understand, probably subjunctive, they would have understood the acharit to or towards, like they would have paid attention, perhaps the yavinu could mean, they would have discerned. Acharit is the end times, right? The what's coming up later of them, their end times. They would have understood their end, their latter part, something like that. Okay, let me do a quick time check. How you guys doing? All right, let's read through it again. You try to translate before I do. Lu. So again, it could be lo. Lu. If only that chakhmu, they had been chachams, they had been wise. Yaskilu, then they would have understood, they would have comprehended, or had insight. They would have understood. What would they have understood? Zot, zayin aleph tav. This. Yavinu, then, or they would have discerned. The acharit their acharit, their end. Okay, I'll read it one time just normally. I'm going to read 28 and 29 at a normal pace. Ki goy ovad eitzot heimah, ve'ein bahem tevuna. 29. Lu chakhmu yaskilu zot. I should have said lu chakhmu yaskilu zot. Yavinu le'acharitam. Okay, how'd you guys do? All right, I'm going to go ahead and end here. And then we have another lesson coming up. Oh, I just realized one of the notes you can't quite see. I will remove our Patreon banner. By the way, thank you for our patrons. Really appreciate you guys. There, you can see the achieve success number 4 there now. If you like the work that we do here and you'd like to contribute, I would really appreciate it. No one's getting rich over here right now, so we actually do live below the poverty line, our family. So, but we eat. Hashem takes care of us. So if you are looking for a learning series to support, then this is certainly one I think you can do with a clear conscience. Feel free to go head on over to patreon.com/Hebrew Literacy, or if you just want to do a one-time gift, head on over to buymeacoffee.com/Hebrew Literacy. You can set up a one-time gift, a recurring gift there, and you can help what we're doing here, and I really appreciate it. All right, more verses coming up soon. Shalom, shalom.